This is Global Tel-Link. You have a prepaid call from
Kamau Atuatasi,
an incarcerated individual at the California State Prison, Solano, Vacaville, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel-Link.
Hello,
Kamau.
Alex. Hey, what's up, Alex? How you doing?
Everything's good. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Can you
hear me? I want to make sure.
if you could talk just a little bit louder, that'd be good.
Hey, what about now?
That sounds
I'm
good.
gonna try another set of head.
That sounds
That's good enough.
Yeah, that sounds good actually. That sounds good right there. What year did you end up going to prison on your current sentence?
Well, I got in prison in 2018.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I was in the county jail for 7 years, and I was out for 4 years before that, and I had another prison term before that.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Welcome to California Tier Talk. This is Alex Alonso from StreetTV, and I got another episode, and this time we're having a conversation with Kamau Atuatasi, who was originally from Carson, California, but he has been in Solano Prison. I don't know how long you've been in Solano, but he's been in prison on his current bid since 2018. What's going on, Kamau?
What's going on, Alex? How you doing?
All is well, man. Just waiting on you to give me this call so we could chop it up and find out what's been going on in your life. What's been going on with you since you was growing up in Carson, and what's going on with you now in Solano. Maybe, and then we'll talk about this. You're part of this program that we building right now too, the Boxing Academy.
Yes.
And then we'll talk about that as well. But let's start off with Carson, California. You're Samoan. How did your family end up in Carson, California, which is a smaller city right outside of Los Angeles?
Well, my mother is the youngest of 9 siblings, and the stories that I've heard was that my oldest aunt came down from the islands, and she brought all her siblings one by one. And so we initially landed in San Francisco with my mom's uncle, and then they spread out to Carson, and then they brought each other down one by one, and it's kind of like the backstory of how we ended up in that area. I got family in Wilmington, Long Beach, parts of Compton, so that was pretty much my whole stomping ground. Also in like Oceanside, California. So that was, I've pretty much been in all them cities my whole life. Right now I'm residing in Wilmington, but if anybody asks me, I say, I'm from Carson and Wilmington. So, know a lot of people in that area. Been running around for a long time. So that's kind of how I ended up in that area.
Okay, now I know a lot of people were introduced to the Samoan culture in Carson when Booyah Tribe came out in the late 1980s. Do you recall that era?
Yes, I do.
You must have been a youngster.
I was a youngster. I was coming up, and I remember seeing them guys. I know a few of them. I know like some of their younger homeboys and stuff like that. We used to party, drink and stuff like that. House parties, a lot of house parties at that time, all through that whole area I was talking about. So, yeah, I remember the Booyah Tribe. Yeah.
All right. So,
That's it.
what's it like growing up in the Samoan culture, but in the Los Angeles area? It must be a different experience than from those that stayed in Samoa, grow up in Samoa. What kind of it's like a hybrid identity, right?
Samoan culture heavily revolves around the church. Um, that's like the foundation of, you know, the culture, you know, that from the islands. Um, growing up, my family's church was in East Harbor City. And so I remember, you know, back in the 80s and things, at Harbor City, they had the Harbor City Crips, which was a little project right across the street in the Essays, audio Harbor City.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
All my family was Bloods. So, you know, I was introduced to a lot of the gang culture. You know, so being Samoan, so like if you're in Long Beach, you know, a lot of the Samoans that migrated from the islands, you know, at that time, you know, you had a lot of the Long Beach Crips. So a lot of Samoans in Long Beach were Crips. And a lot of the Samoans in Carson ended up being Bloods. There was a lot of Pirus and a lot of Bloods over there. Parts of Compton. In that area, it became Crips, Park Village. You have some from like Lime Hood, Ludish Park area, which was more Blood. So we took on the gang culture depending on the neighborhood that the church was surrounded, where most of the family lived at in that area. So being Samoan, you know, we were raised on certain values, traditions, you know, respect, and, you know, just really, really love for one another. But like you said, a hybrid being mixed in with the environment took on a lot of the gang culture. You know, like you said, mentioned the Booyah tribe, you know, that was the Pirus. You know, the church that they were at, in the area that they were hanging out in, you know, was predominantly Piru gangs. So it was a little bit of both. It was culture, being Samoan, but also, you know, you grew up with blacks, Hispanics, but at the time in our area it was like a lot of Bloods, and, you know, Hispanics were more Hispanic gangs. So, you know, I grew up on the Blood side, but also Hispanics. I was a lot of Hispanics too in that area. So, I don't know if I answered the question correctly, but, you know, that's just a little bit of the growing up in the Samoan culture and how, you know, got involved with gangs and things like that back in them days. When we come to prison, you know, we try to get back in touch with the culture in prison, you know, as others. We consider others in prison. And so we kind of, that's like a little bit of how we come together in prison, but that's the kind of getting back in touch with the culture, you know, while we were here. A lot of guys who were hardcore gangbangers from different gangs, you know, like reached a point to where, you know, they just kind of left that alone and coming back to the culture. So a lot of guys getting out of prison and trying to, you know, spread all the positive things to the culture, to the guys on the streets nowadays. That's what I've been hearing. So trying to reverse some of the, you know, just some of the kids out there getting involved with gangs, some of the shootings, some of the murders. And so you got the guys that grew up in the culture back then, joined gangs, and now getting out and trying to be a positive influence to a lot of guys in the community back home. You know.
Okay. Being that there are Samoans in Long Beach, in Compton, and Carson, but representing different identities, different gang identities. Like in Compton, you mentioned the Park Villages, which are Crips, but in Carson, most of those neighborhoods are Pirus. In Long Beach, I believe you had SOS and other Crip identities. Does that kind of does it create a division within the Samoan community amongst a lot of young males?
I would say there is a division just because of the color. You know, you got red and blue. You know, but like I said, as some of the older guys that grew out of the gangs or just got older, I think this is where the cultural aspect comes in at is you know, the love. You know, a lot of us were raised in good families, you know, and grew up and, you know, got involved in other things. And I think as you get older, guys try to break down those barriers, you know, lines that kept people at odds with each other, you know, murders and things.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
You don't hear a lot of Samoans shooting each other, killing each other. You might have a few murders or things like that, but overall, you know, it's not an ongoing thing. You know, it's not an ongoing like war that lasts for decades and decades. And I think that's primarily because of the culture. The families get involved. You know, which is a small community back home. You know, somebody knows somebody to try to, you know, just bring peace. So I think that's part of it. You know, as far as like just the division, like you said, between the Bloods and the Crips and different sets and things. Samoa is a small island, so we come from certain villages back home, and so you know we can kind of know where you're from or what village you're from by your last name or your family. Samoa is a small island, so you know it's not real hard to know where a person's from or who their family is. And so I think that has a lot to do with, you know, just the elders in the family, you know, the people in the churches, you know, can you know, reach out and find ways to just communicate with the families of, you know, the people who are at odds with each other. And that has a lot to do with just, you know, reducing the violence and things. So we might be from different areas, different gangs, different hoods, but I might have cousins from those different gangs and different hoods. And so it's kind of like, you know, you know, you don't want to shoot at your cousin or your family. So we kind of connected in a lot of different ways. Somebody knows somebody from whatever neighborhood they're from in those areas. So
okay.
You know, that's why I believe, you know, you don't have a lot of, you know, ongoing gang violence, gang wars. You might have a few things that happen here and there, but it don't last for a long time because of the cultural aspect.
All right. So you mentioned Harbor City. Is that where you got affiliated in the streets in that part of LA?
No, that was my first. Actually, that was my first exposure because of my family. My family's church was right across the street from those projects. I remember back in the 80s and stuff. And so a lot of my family were Bloods, and so that I used to, you know, I went to my first cousin's funeral in 1988. And I remember, you know, all these guys outside wearing red and just, you know, Cadillacs and stuff like that, jerry curls. Casket inside the funeral was all red, and you know, but I started seeing the difference between, you know, the Crips and Bloods, and my older cousin was, you know, showing me gang signs and things like that. So, as a Samoan, you know, I learned a lot of that stuff through, you know, my cousins and being in the church, being around the church, but also across the street was Crips. You know, so I knew that you couldn't go across the street to get something from the store because the guys across the street might try to do something. So I'm talking about, this is when I was, you know, 9, 10 years old. But that was kind of my upbringing. And down the street you had Wilmington, you had the Waterfront Pirus. And you had the Mexican gangs, Wemas. You had, you know, Eastside Pain, Scottsdale Pirus, Cabbage Patch Pirus. You had all these different Samoan gangs. You know, a few SA gangs. Well, it was a lot. Everybody was out during that time, and it was dangerous. You know, I remember a lot of shootings. a lot of people selling drugs and things like that. So I grew up around a lot of those things, but in that culture, in the Samoan culture, but also the gang culture. Kind of like you said, kind of like a hybrid. So that's a little bit about my introduction to the gang life, and mostly through like my family, and the people they knew, seeing drug dealers and things, ballers, people from different cities, parts of Compton, parts of LA, Watts, they would come down and they knew them. So I remember a lot of them guys' names back then, and I thought that was the thing to do. I remember 1993, and barely turned 15. Me and a few other guys got kicked out of Banning High School. We were smoking some weed and ended up trying to go to class. And then there was spray painting in the hallway. And next thing you know, the security guard came and got us out the classroom and took us to the principal's office. And we were so high that we had...
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And I knew that, if I would have got kicked out of school, I had an ass whooping coming from my uncle. So I called my cousin and pretended like he was my uncle, asked him to pretend like he was my uncle. And I knew the only thing that would kind of get me out of that situation, get kicked out of school, not going home, was money. So me and the guys that I was with, we came up with a plan to go on a robbing spree, and dude was going to go buy some dope, set up shop in Wilmington, and just start selling drugs and start making money. And we ended up getting arrested. That was my first time getting arrested with the juvenile hall system. I ended up taking a deal. We had like 6 robberies. I took a deal for one, and just the other guys took deals for the rest of them. And that was my first time getting incarcerated. But the gangs, the culture, and then the hustling wanting to become, trying to get money, landed me in jail.
So what was that like, your first incarceration as a minor?
I remember it was different. It was a different environment. I remember, just on your own. It hit me that I was on my own, and nobody wasn't coming to save me. I didn't know what to expect. And I remember I got into a lot of fights. I was getting into a lot of fights. I ended up in the hole. I was in LP. Ended up what they call the box. I was in TU. That's one of the parts of Los Padrinos box. And I ended up in the box. Ended up going to Challenger, and then I ended up in Camp Scott. But it was experience. It was kind of fun. It was kind of like a rite of passage as I look back, because I knew that the guys who were getting out of the jail and YA and Penn, they were looked up to. Everybody used to look up to them. It's like they were famous. They were superstars. And I've seen people give them money, wads of money, cars. And at the time, I grew up, without a father. My dad was abusive. I seen him beat up my mom. And I ended up getting taken away by my dad when I was young, and I went through a lot of that stuff too. And so one day he says, "It's time for you to go stay back with your mom's family." And that was the last time I saw him. So I grew up without a father. And so, I kind of gravitated towards what I thought it was to be a man, what I thought it was to be cool. Really just searching for identity, acceptance, all those kind of things. And it just led me down the road. As I look back, that's where a lot of my issues started. Not only from the earlier, abuse and things, but I wish to this day, I wish I could go back. I wish I could go back at that time and, could have changed, became a, football player, would have went to college or did something totally different.
What do you think?
That's it.
What do you think was the main pull into gang life, street life for you when you was a teenager? What pulled you in? You feel the most?
I think that the pull was, I saw that the guys who, my family members and people that they would have around, I thought they was cool. I thought they was tough. I grew up around some big guys. What I mean by big is swole. You know, 6 foot or better. Monster. Lifting weights and drinking, knocking people out. That was like a regular thing. Money, having money. And at the time I wasn't really exposed to nothing else. And so I thought that that's who I wanted to be. Women, cars, money. Like I said, the pull was looking for an identity. I didn't have one. Looking back, I didn't really have my own identity. And I thought that would give me an identity. And so I did whatever I could to try to obtain that. And I never really got there. I'll be honest, I never really got there. And because I felt it was always something that stopped me. By stop me is I had always end up landing back in jail, or always something bad happening. Over and over and over again. I never reached a certain peak when it came to money. I never got to that place that I always thought that would make me happy, and I just never got there. So, but the pull, I think, yeah, that was it. I just wanted to get to that place where, respected, feared, identity, what I thought it was to be a man, those kind of things. So I think that was really the main thing as I look back.
Now you mentioned attending Banning High School, and when you go to a school like Banning, there's like gangs on all sides of Banning. So basically, like to the west, you got the Harbor City Crips. To the east, you have the East Side Pain that you mentioned, and then you got Weemas all over the place. North Side Weemas and East Side Weemas, and then to the south, you even got another blood gang that I can't remember. What was it like? That might have had an impact, I'm assuming, a whole bunch of students going to Banning representing different hoods.
Well, at the time, this is the 90s, early 90s. So, at that time, everybody was out. I remember people just, hanging out on street corners all the time. All around the school. There was, I remember they had dudes that would drive by the school, gangbangers, picking up their little brothers or just rolling around the school looking for somebody who wasn't from the gang they was from. There was a couple of shootings. I remember Banning High School in Crenshaw couldn't have a night football game. They had to have their game in the daytime. So because of the gangs, the gangs would fill up. People and families would come through and watch the game. So I guess they had some shootings and stuff back then. It was kind of dangerous to go to school. I remember me, another guy, we had got chased one time. He was from Eastside Pain, and we were together. We were going somewhere. We were ditching school or something, and there was 2 carloads of essays pulled up next to us. One of us threw something at him, and next thing you know, we was getting chased. We was getting chased through the alley or something, and guys got out. hopped a couple of fences.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
We won't do that kind of stuff on a regular basis. That was just something I remembered off the top of my head. It got to the point where we carrying guns to school now because of those kind of situations. And it got to the point where we're not even going to school no more. Because you're better off not going to school because you might get caught slipping one day. Just that one day I went to school with the one I mentioned where, we was hitting up in the hallway. That was my last day attending high school. I never really went to school like that. Every day was just all about hanging out. It was all about, trying to hustle. I remember, house parties, full-blown house parties in the daytime, with DJs, girls, all those kind of things. That was really, that's the only memories I really have of high school. I played football 1 year, defensive player of the year. Outside of that, it was all what I just mentioned, just hanging out, partying, drinking, girls. But I don't really have no memories of high school. Just just stuff I would get into. I did 1993. Went to jail for a year, got out, and I went right back for 2 more years. So all my high school years was pretty much locked up as a juvenile. That time it was burglaries, doing burglaries and stuff. One of my boys, one day, this is what he did all the time. So she pulled up one day and, he wasn't doing nothing. And he said, man, let's go hit a couple of houses. And so I knew he'd been doing this for a long time, and he was coming up. I mean, he had money, he had all this. Every time I seen him, he had different clothes and, different guns, a wad of money. And he was just basically like a jacker, a flocker. He just left.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I went with him, me and a few other guys, and we ran up in a couple of houses. One of them, we decided to go back. My boy that was with us, he was like, man, let's take your time. We're moving too fast. But the other guys that was with us, they was a little paranoid, felt like we were there too long. So we left, and we decided to go back the next day, and ended up getting into a high-speed chase and got caught. We ended up doing 2 years behind that. So that was it for high school. That was pretty much it. So I didn't really have a normal high school, like, go to high school like a normal kid. My life has been kind of like that. Like I said, ups and downs. You try to make fast money, and if something gets in the way, you got to start over again.
I want to know, you mentioned alcohol. What role did alcohol, marijuana, and other drugs play when you was a teenager? Were you experimenting at a young age with different drugs?
Yeah. Grew up drinking at a very young age. Probably about 12 years old. Families used to have parties, uncles, big family, cousins. My uncles and them would have liquor and beer, or, oldies, food. And so we were kids, and we would just sneak and grab a beer, and started off like that. So until, we would drink 40s, then we turned from sneaking and, beers, and we started drinking 40s at that point, 8-ball, Old English. Been a heavy drinker my whole life. Started off smoking weed. There was a time when I smoked sherm, snorted powder. As I got older, smoked a little crystal. That wasn't really my thing, but, mostly with girls and women and stuff like that. This is like around my 20s, when I was in my 20s. I'm 48 now. But yeah, there was a time when I, mostly drinking. That was my number one thing, is drinking, partying, really, smoking weed. I kind of went to, smoking powder, found some of my Hispanic partners, dudes that were selling dope and stuff like that. We drink with them, they bust out a line, and, we just do a line and just keep it going a little bit. But nothing real major. There was times when I did do too many lines or something in the night. Was up all night long, stuff like that. But that was as far as it goes, as far as like my experimenting with drugs. But like I said, this is years ago. I've been down, almost coming up on 15 years. Been locked up almost 15 years, so this is like in my 20s. Really, hard partying real hard during my 20s. And even as a teenager, even as like I said, 12 years old, as far as I can go back from about 12, pretty much nonstop when I was on the street. Everything was all about, drinking, going to parties, Yeah, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Okay. What was your direct family thinking when you were going to jail as a juvenile? Whether your mom, I know you said your dad wasn't around, your mom or other family members, what were they saying? What's going on with Kamau?
I just think they, I never really asked them that, to be honest with you. I think, because it wasn't just me, it was a bunch of my cousins. We were getting in trouble. All of us was getting in trouble. I get locked up with one of my cousins that I was telling you about when we did the robberies, and our families coming there, so we related. So it wasn't just me getting in trouble. We were just kind of like bad kids, at that time. And then I had older cousins that were getting in trouble, going to prison, doing time. They was already doing time in the prison, getting in and out, out of prison and stuff. Like I said, my first funeral was 1988. I was 10 years old, 19 years old. My cousin was in the casket, nothing but red rags in there. So I think my family was kind of, they were kind of hip to, the street life. And I know they had high hopes for me. They would tell me, you make it's the decisions you're making, it's the choices you're making. And our culture, Samoan culture. I remember times when we would sit in the living room, and my family, my uncle, my aunts, or older cousins, or somebody would just we would have little talks, and they would say things that really didn't make sense to me back then. And now that I'm older, I understand. I understand what they were trying to say. But I just think that they didn't know what was wrong with me, or know why I was doing the things I was doing. Maybe they just thought I was a bad kid at the time. But there was a few that knew I had potential, and they would stay on me and stay on me. They didn't give up on me. And some of them family members are still here with me today. They're still here with me today. Still coming to visit me. Still coming to, they still ain't gave up on me. So those are the ones I think that saw something good in me. They just knew I was, making bad choices back then.
So eventually you start getting arrested as an adult. Take me to going to prison for the very first time.
That was 1998. 1998. I was actually in the military. I tried to join the military. My ex-wife had got pregnant, and one of my uncles was a Marine, and I got out from doing the burglaries. I did 2 years after that, but I was a juvenile. And he mentioned to me that I could get waivers I could get waivers. They would basically overlook my juvenile record and go in the military. And so that's what I did. My girlfriend, my ex-wife, she was pregnant, and I just knew that I had to do something. And I thought that was going to help me, be a father and, provide and all those things. But I never had a job. So I ended up going to the station in Germany, finished the boot camp, went to the training school, ended up in Germany, and was back to it. It was nothing but a party out there. The whole different country, beautiful women, and all they did out there was drink. And, they got red light districts out there. The women are, exotic. They're just beautiful, beautiful women out there. And I was just introduced to something that was it was just off the chain. You know what I mean? It was off the hook. And, I just got, drinking and fighting. It's like normal thing to do out there. And one day I was in the bar. Some dude had, it was a big bar fight. Somebody had hit me in the back of the head with a bottle. And somebody came out of nowhere. To this day, I don't remember what they looked like or nothing. I think it was already, faded. And somebody gave me a knife. And so I realized that I had a knife in my hand. And I looked up and I saw my buddy of mine, his girlfriend, on the side of the, by these tables on the side of by this wall. And so I walked over there to her and I gave her the knife. And I didn't stab anybody, I didn't hurt anybody, nothing. But I gave her the knife, and he ended up just leaving, getting up out of there. It was people, stuff was flying, and people, getting stomped out. And we ended up leaving. There was a few of us that came together. Next thing you know, I was getting arrested because there was an off-duty military police in there that said that he saw me with the knife in my hand. So by that, and I had already had a few bar fights before that. I wasn't even in but a couple of months. I was in a little bit less than a year. And so the dude that I gave, my boy's girl that I gave the knife to, he got into something. He ended up getting into some trouble. And they offered him a deal to testify against me. And he went and grabbed the knife and used it as evidence. And they was trying to get me to take a deal, or go to Fort Leavenworth Prison. It's a maximum security prison in Kansas, Fort Leavenworth Prison. And so I took a deal, and I went to a federal prison in the military. So I did about a year and got out. That was back in 1998. It was 1998.
So did you get a dishonorable discharge because of that?
I got a bad conduct discharge. And the trip is, so I pled, so part of the deal was
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
to 2 assault with deadly weapons. And mind you, nobody got hurt, no nothing. But I just handed the knife to some girl, my boy's girl, but I pled guilty to
You have 60 seconds remaining.
a whole other situation and 2 drunken disorderlies. And so, looking back, they I didn't know nothing. I was young, and they just, they convinced me to take the deal. And my wife was pregnant, and so, I didn't want to be away from them for 5 years. I tried to fight it, so I took a deal that I shouldn't have took. I ended up with what they call a bad conduct discharge. A bad conduct discharge. So that's something that's been kind of bugging me for a long time, over 20-something years, because I knew I didn't do this other one, and all I did was hand the knife to my boy's girl, and somebody gave it to me. Nobody even got hurt. No stabbing, no nothing. I think somebody saw me get hit with the bottle, and they came and handed me the knife. I don't know if they was trying to help me out, whatever, but I still, to this day, I don't know who that person was. I was drunk. And all I remember was, damn, I got a knife in my hand, and I just saw somebody I knew, and I went and gave it to her. We held on to it for like 6 months. My boy got into something. They basically convinced him to testify against me, and granted him immunity. And that's when I saw him, get on the stand and everything, straight line. You know what I mean? So he said he saw me waving it around and this and that. So that was pretty much it.
Was this in federal court or was this in military court?
It was military court, but that it is a kind of a federal case.
When you get out of you do time at Leavenworth, you get out. What's going on in your life at that point?
What's going on in my life at that point? I got a son now. I'm getting out of jail, and I'm coming back to the States. I'm coming back to California. Looking back, I think I just didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? I got a wife, got a son, didn't know, really how to get a job. You know what I'm saying? Didn't know how to do those kind of things. So I struggled. I worked a few odd jobs. I remember we moved in with my mother-in-law at the time, my father-in-law at the time. I was still young and, irresponsible, still hanging out with my family, my cousins and my family, still partying. But on the other hand, I wanted to be a father, wanted to be a provider, and just didn't know how. I eventually ended up getting a job in the refineries, the oil refineries. So start making money, spending money. Me and my ex-wife were having problems. We ended up splitting up for a time. We got separated. We came back together again. Had another kid, my daughter. And so that was kind of rocky. That was a rocky period because it was pretty much on me. Partying, I'm like 20, 22, 21. That led to me just partying and working, partying, hanging out. And that ended up me messing around with my wife. I was messing around with different women, things like that. She eventually ended up messing around on me. And I found out, 2004, around 2004, and ended up catching her one day. We had an argument. I told her, we needed to talk about it. I had my suspicions, and I ended up catching a domestic violence case and a terrorist threat. It was a pushing match. She screaming and yelling, and we both going back and forth. I was drunk at the time, and I ended up slapping her, And it was something that was just the heat of the moment, something that I was actually raised not to do. We don't put hands on women and things like that. But I think looking back over everything, a lot of my own issues that I grew up with, I can trace back to my earliest years, my dysfunctional upbringing. I can trace it all back to there. So I came to prison in 2004. Took a deal, did almost 2 years, a year and a half and some change. and I got out, and I was out for almost 4 years. We got back together, and we had some more problems. Again, and the same thing happened again. So that was the root cause of how I ended up coming into prison this time. But I didn't touch her. I didn't do nothing. You know what I mean? I just went the other route with it. Carrying guns and things like that, hanging around the wrong people. Made some bad choices. Ended up going to. I was in the.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
7 years. Sat in the county jail. Came to jail on assault with a deadly weapon and attempted robbery. Got charged with a murder, attempted murder, and another assault with a semi-automatic firearm. And they joined all them cases together. And I went to trial. I got found not guilty on the murder, attempted murder. They dismissed the attempted robbery, and I got found guilty on assault with a deadly weapon and assault with a semi-automatic firearm. So I know I kind of went a little further ahead than what was going on in my life at the time, but I just wanted to give you just the layout of everything, how I got to this place where I'm at today.
So this was an assault that was a result of what was going on with your relationship with your woman at the time?
No, I caught her cheating on me. But I didn't touch her. I just left it alone. I walked away. But I ended up full-blown alcohol, full-blown partying. And, the old ways came back out, started carrying guns, started hanging around people I shouldn't have been hanging around with, selling guns. I had a couple of people I was buying a bunch of guns with at the time. So I was getting rid of guns. I was buying bulk, different guns, hot guns, and one of them had a body on it. So I didn't know this at the time, but they found one of them at the house, had a body on it, and I ended up getting that charged with murder and intent. I didn't know the people. They didn't know me. They came to testify. I don't have no connection or nothing to this. But the way they did the trial was like they try to paint a picture, and they added these, the other charges I had to kind of, to make it look like, it was me. Because of the gun was used in that charge, so when they had it at the house. So, but that was the reason, that was the root cause. I just shared a little bit about my ex-wife. Messed around again. The time that I caught this case. And so, that's how I ended up in prison.
So let's talk about being in different prisons in the CDCR. What's life been for you for these last many years? I'm sure they bounce you around from prison to prison. Before you got to Solano, where have you been and what's it been like?
So I was in reception. I was in North Kern. Wasn't too much program over there. We basically on lockdown in reception. So I was there for like, I think 4 months. Then after that, I went to level 4. I went to corporate. A lot of murders, a lot of stabbings, a lot of negativity, negative mindset. A lot of people who I'll never forget. I walked on the yard, and I felt it. I felt like there was some negative energy on that yard. You could feel, that a lot has happened there. And I remember I walked in the building, so you can walk in the building and you look around, and I looked up and I didn't see not one light on in all the cells. Everybody's light was dark. Some was pitch black. You know what I'm saying? So I thought that was real strange. I felt like that was an environment where people was using drugs, and you could just feel it. You could feel it. I knew a couple of people I talked to. I knew from county jail, and from the streets and stuff. I said, man, something off about this place. And everybody felt it. They would all say the same thing. I think the second or third day I was there, seen a dude get stabbed and got butchered. He had with a big old knife, long knife, looked like about almost 9-10 inches. A couple of guys were just on him. That was the first stabbing I seen in prison. I seen a bunch of them in the county jail. I've also been in a few like knife fights and stuff, a few riots and things like that, fighting, squabbling. But I was the first prison stabbing. When I got there, they had the Southerners, the Southsiders, and they had the Bulldogs out of Fresno. They had the Bulldogs. They was on lockdown, so they were going through the they were going back and forth. They had their what they call Incrementals back then. So they would let a small group of each one of those two groups out, and the rest of us, and we would just sit back and watch them fight. It was like it just set up fights. You knew you had a fight. You was going to watch a fight every time they came out. So I remember we would be in the day room, and so it got so bad to where one day the Southerners would come out to the day room, or come out to the yard, or go to canteen. Let's say on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and then the Bulldogs would come out on like Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. So the days when, let's say, the Southerners would be out, they would the police would, the CO would pop a Bulldog cell, come out. And so if he came out the cell, he was going to get rushed. I seen those kind of things. And I seen things where it was the opposite. The Bulldogs is out in Southside, they let him out. They pop his door on accident. And then
this call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
So a lot of it had to do with the COs setting it up, doing things and saying there was accidents. I seen guys come in, what they call 50-50s and SUY, 50-50 yards and stuff like that. The last time I was in prison, they didn't have that. So that was everybody told me, trying to explain to me what it was. So I was seeing them guys come in, going to like an orientation for I think a week or two. And, they would say, hey, that guy, he came from the 50-50 yard. He came from SUY yards, As soon as he came out the cell, they was on him. So,
you have 60 seconds remaining.
That was a rough place. A lot of stabbings. A lot of stabbings became normal. It's a normal thing. Lockdowns. Got real used to being in the cell. But I had already did a lot of cell time in the county. I spent 3 years, 23 hours a day in the county jail. I was already kind of conditioned for prison, being prison lockdowns. But every time we came out, something happened. Something would always happen. So yeah, that was Corcoran. That was my experience in Corcoran. After that, went to Calipat. Level 4, Calipat. When I got there, it was the same old thing. Same thing at Corcoran. The only difference was it was down south, and they had way more Hispanics. All the staff, all the COs, everybody, was all Hispanic. The culture was a lot different. I couldn't wait to get up out of there. I couldn't wait to get there. I spent 3 years. I stayed there for 3 years. That was around the time COVID hit, so that was one of the reasons I stayed there a little longer. Went to the hole. Had a couple of little fights and stuff. So didn't get much. Didn't do much over there as far as like programs and things like that. They didn't have a lot, and if they did, it was like if he wasn't in that inner circle of people, it was plugging each other in with groups and colleges and things like that. And you just had to get in on some type of waiting list. I did take ARC, one of the classes I took down there with a guy named Jamil Carter. It's a funny thing, I just saw him the other day. He came up here to see somebody else. He's a gang expert now. So I was one of the few classes I took down there. Everything else was like, I took like 2 correspondence classes or something. But yeah, I didn't get much done over there at Calipat. There was fights. There was a lot of fights. There was a couple of melees, a few stabbings, stabbings and things. But when I was there, they turned that up from a 4-yard. They flipped it to what they call a 3-yard. When I came here, the Bulldogs had came down there to that same building I was in. So I remember they let us all out on the bottom tier. So they separate the bottom tier and top tier. So the bottom tier goes out to the yard, and there's a fence that separates, that splits the yard in half. So the bottom tier went out. Bulldogs were in this top section, maybe like 10 cells. And then the Northerners and the Southerners were in another section, maybe like another 10 cells. And the Bulldogs out first. And they walked through the metal detector. Guys were telling me that, man, every last one of them doing the metal detector was going off. They had beanies and, masked up and just looked like they was ready to get it cracking. And so about maybe 15, 20 of them came out. And they were, there was no...
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
There was nobody on the other side of the fence except him. We were on the other side of the fence. So they were just waiting for the Northerners and the Southerners to come out. And as soon as they all came out, I remember they were wearing all blue shirts. They were all wearing blue shirts, and the Bulldogs would have like, white T-shirts, long sleeves and blood and beanies, and so as soon as they came outside, they started barking. And the Bulldogs started barking, and they ran up on them. And I looked on the side where the building was at. There was about maybe 70 people in suits. Looked like a bunch of people with guns and grenades and SWAT team looking people over there. They had all the equipment on. It was about a good 70 of them, but there was a lot of people just sitting there just watching, and it seemed like it went on forever. There was a guy get stabbed over here, 2 guys on one, 2 guys stomping the dude out, 1 guy fighting a couple guys. There was just different groups. Grenades was just going off. Guy squared off with another guy. He had something in his hand. All of a sudden, he hit the ground because he had the little grenades that explode and they hit you. It's like little balls or something that hit you in the face. So I'm seeing dudes just leaking, getting hit in the head with stuff dropping. But that went on for a minute. A couple of people got carried out of there on stretchers. A couple of people had bandages all over their head and a couple of holes in them. So that was like one of the last things I saw before I came up here. It went on for at least, I want to say, 5-10 minutes. At least about a good 5-10 minutes because the COs it was like target practice. It seemed like time slowed down. Another thing that happened before I left there was they would do the incrementals again. The small groups to fight and go back, lock down another 14 days. Next group come out, 1 guy stabbed a guy. We go back another 14 days. So it was like that. Every 14 days or every week. and just reset the lockdown and keep going. Right before I came, like a day or two before I came here, the Bulldogs were getting escorted to medical at the same time. I was a porter. I cleaned up the building. Me, Hispanic guy, another brother from up north, and we came, and the Bulldogs would be escorted back into the building. They would ask us to close ourselves, lock ourselves in the showers. There's a cage. You just close it and it locks. One of the other guys, he didn't close the cage all the way. So when they were walking up the stairs, the cage popped open and he ran over there. Hispanic guy ran over there and fired on one of the dudes that was cuffed up. Well, he slid out the cuff somehow. He had something. And he sliced that dude in the face, and he took off running. The guy took off running. And that was like a day or two before I came here. That was February 2023. And so I left there. I came to Solano, and I've been here since 2023.
So what's the environment and the vibe like at Solano compared to these other places you've been to?
A lot more positive, a lot less violence. Now getting to a place where there's more and more programs. As of right now, as we speak, they're shutting down C Yard. So they do that, deactivating C Yard. I'm on A Yard. They got A, B, C, and D. C and D are level 2s. A and B are level 3s. So they're deactivating C Yard, so they're sending all these people over here to A Yard where I'm at. So right now we transitioning they're getting a new CRM. A new CRM should be here starting Monday, I heard. It's our first day. Getting a new AW, assistant warden, next week. A lot more programs. A lot less violence on this yard I'm on. The yard is kind of cracking over there. It's a little bit, a lot of youngsters over there, a lot of fighting and stuff like that. There's always something going on almost every day over there. When they go down, his alarm goes off. They see yard down, they go down. Sometimes a yard goes down. So that means we got to sit on the ground. The staff goes over there and try to figure out what the situation is or whatever, support or whatever. But aside from that, a little bit of violence here and there. It ain't that bad. I've seen a lot of people go home from here. I've seen a lot of people go home. Dudes who had death row, they came from death row, get the death penalty off of them. Guys with LWOPs go home. A lot of lifers go home. I mean, there's like 5, 6 guys I could just think of off the top of my head that's waiting to go home. Me myself, I just got some good news recently with my certificate, what they call a certificate of appealability, just got granted in the Ninth Circuit. In the federal court, highest federal court in the state. I left this out, but I represented myself pro per for 3 years when I was in the county jail because I didn't have a choice. So I learned a little something about the law. I learned about the appeal process. A lot of guys back there we helped each other. A lot of guys who came down from prison and went pro per. They gave us a lot of games as far as the appeal process. And it was sad because you see a lot of people, when they're in the system, when they come up to prison or they lose trial, a lot of people lose hope, you know what I mean? And that's where all the other stuff starts at, the violence and the drugs and whatever. But a lot of times people get done wrong in the courts and end up with kick time or cases that they shouldn't have legally.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
But You know, even here, we helping each other. This is the environment here. We all helping each other as guys. You know, you can go to the library every day, the law library every day if you want to. Calipat, you go to the library once a week. You know what I mean? So that's a big difference over there and over here. The Calipat, you got to go to the library on a whole other yard. You got to get cuffed up. You got to walk over there. You can only be there for like 2 hours and come back. Over here, you can go to the library and stay there until they have the little downtime, and then you come back at a different time, and you can stay there again. You know, you can get copies. You can be. It's a real library. You know, we got college here. You know, Calipat, I didn't get nothing done. I was waiting on the waiting list for 3 years, writing, trying to do everything I can to get in college. Here, back-to-back college. Every semester, I'm in some classes. I'm on the verge of getting 3 AA degrees. I'm about, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 classes away. After that, bachelor's. You know, hopefully everything works out with my court stuff. Try to go home. You know, trying to go back to my family, live a whole new life. Over here, there's a bunch of guys that are creating programs. You know, I didn't know that you could create programs, so I was fortunate enough to be around a bunch of good people, guys that really inspired me to, you know, think ahead. You know, you can actually create something where, you know, creating a career. You're creating, you know, and you're helping people along the way. You're helping people that was just like me. You know, my life story, and there's a bunch of juveniles. There's a bunch of kids coming here. They all got life sentences, and they're all lost. You know, so a lot of guys is a little bit older. We wanna help them. You know, want to help them change their life and just give them some hope for a better future. So when they go home, they'll be better fathers. You know, better brothers, better sons, and things, and you know, benefiting their communities. You know, giving back to their communities. That's the difference in where I'm at here versus over there at Corcoran and Calipat. You know, really a lot of people wasn't trying to, as a whole, you know, the yard wasn't really trying to, you know, do a lot of positive stuff. You know, you had people here and there, but the culture, the environment is different. Here, pretty much everybody's a little bit more helpful. All different races. You know, you got good guys in every group here. You know what I mean? And they're genuine. You know, that was another thing I saw. Got some real genuine guys. You know, they don't cuss. They don't never see a cuss word. You know, they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it. They're going to be there.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
But yeah, I learned a lot from the guys that's around me. I participated in a lot of programs. I facilitated a lot of programs. I'm part of creating programs. Yeah, this has been a real good thing. It's been a blessing actually coming here. You know, I've grown a lot since I've been here. Whole different person than who I was before. You know, growing up and who I've been my whole life. Learned a lot from my own mistakes. And right now, I'm all about giving back. I'm all about trying to help people. You know, this ain't something that I just said out of a sudden, out of the blue. It's something I've been doing for years. You know, I've been consistent for a long time. So I feel like I'm going in a certain direction.
The last thing I want to ask is we're gonna wrap this up, but I would like to know if there's a teenager or a young adult listening to our conversation right now, what message would you have for that young person?
Teenager or young adult right now, listen. What message would I have for them? If you don't know where you're going in life, right now is the best time to really listen to the guys that's in prison, guys like myself, who has been getting in trouble in and out of jail since I was a teenager like you. You don't know how important it is to the time that you have right then and there in your life. You don't know how important it is, the decisions that you make that can change the course of your life. You can do anything you want to do. You got the power to create the future that you want. It's not going to be hard. I mean, it's not going to be easy. You know, it's not going to be something that you feel like doing. You know, life is hard. You know, once you understand that the path to success, the path to obtaining your goals, the path to just everything you really want is not going to be an easy road. You know, you got to ask yourself, how bad do you want it? How bad do you, how hard are you willing to fight for what you want in life? You know, what are you willing to sacrifice, you know, to get there? You know, I say that because when I was faced with those choices, am I going to go party? Am I going to go hang out with the homies? Or am I going to go to work, or go look for a job, or go to school? When I was at that decision point, should I go hang out? Should I go do nothing and want to be, you know, kick it and have fun, or do the stuff that I didn't feel like doing? What I chose to do was go have fun. I chose to go have fun. I avoided all the hard stuff. I avoided all the stuff that could have helped me, that could have changed the course of my life. And where did that land me? That landed me right in here in prison, talking to you with a 40-year sentence at 48 years old. And so, you know, listen. You know, somebody asked me one time, if a little kid came to prison and asked you, "What are you doing here?" You know, what would I say? And I would say, I just didn't listen to nobody. I didn't listen to nobody. And that sounds kind of weird to say that, but when you don't listen to people who try to help you throughout your life, your elder, your parents, you know, your teachers, your friends that really care about you, you know, people in the community, your neighbors, you know, somebody said something that you knew was right, you just chose not to listen, you know, you end up in places like this, you know, or worse. You end up dead. You end up homeless. You end up strung out on drugs. You know, you got to really think about what you want and where you want to be in your life. You know, there's people that'll help you along the way if you're doing the right thing. If you're doing the wrong thing, there's people that are there to help you go down deeper and deeper into the wrong path. But my advice would be start listening. Start thinking about, you know, what you really want to do. You know, you don't have to have all the answers, but you got to at least be going in the right direction. You know, you got to at least be headed there, and you find out along the way. You figure it out along the way. You know, you're not going to always have all the answers and know exactly what the outcome is going to be. But you know when you're going in the right direction. And sometimes, when times get hard, that's when you even just got to push on even further, push on harder. And, you know, there's going to be a breakthrough. Something good is going to happen. You know, and that's signs that you're on the right path. When it's hard, when good things are happening at the same time, that's how you know that you're on the right path. You're doing the right thing. But I'm just really trying to save you some time. I'm trying to save you some time. You're young, you're a teenager, and, you know, that's all you got is time. You don't want to look up one day, you're old, and you look back and say, damn, I done wasted my whole damn life. And you got nothing to show for it. That's not a good place to be in. You know, so you know, they say you can learn. I heard a saying one time: a fool learns from his own mistakes. A wise man learn from other people's mistakes. It said, but a stupid man never learns. You know, so think about that. You know, which one you want to be. You know, I would advise you be the wise man. You learn from other people's mistakes. You learn what not to do. You learn what not to do. You watch them, and you see, oh, okay, I don't want to do that. I want to do something else. I want to follow these people that's doing something good with their life. They're going up to school. They're trying to get a degree. They're trying to, get a good job. They're trying to make some good money. They're not breaking the law. They're not getting in trouble. They're not going to jail. Those are the people you want to be hanging around and following. So that's what I would say, Alex. I would say something along them lines.
Kamau Atuatasi, I appreciate you sharing a small part of your story.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And you stay safe in there.
Appreciate everything. I appreciate taking the time to, just hear me out and let me share a little bit about my life and just some of my experiences. I hope it can help somebody. I hope it might be able to help somebody. And, we all have a story to tell, So I appreciate you again, man. And you take care. And maybe next time I would like to share a little bit about this program that we're working on over here. I know you're a part of it too. And so we're getting ready to do some great things over here. We're starting this pilot program about a week or so. We got to pretty much to figure out all the details and everything, get up and running real soon, hopefully sooner than that. But, so I just want to say thank you.